And good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us once again on a Home in Italy live stream. As we do this every Thursday, you are more than welcome. It's the first time, then welcome. If you usually join us, then welcome back. It's going to be a great one tonight. We have a special guest on tonight, who's David Nixon from Currencies Direct. He's going to be giving us some hints and some tips about when it comes to changing the important thing. Let's be honest, when we look at buying properties and things like that, we're always looking at our budgets and that kind of thing, and very few people think about how important it is when it comes to changing the money over. So it's this is going to be a really good one tonight. Hopefully he's going to give you a few hints and tips about how to basically work the system, so to speak. So we're going to get onto that shortly. I'm slightly off put at the minute because, as you know, this is a new thing with streaming and everything. I can see little photographs of Tony in the background, as he is as usual, flinging his arms in the air. So if he's trying to tell me something, I have no idea what he's saying. But hopefully everybody can hear me. There's a good few people coming in, so you are more than welcome. Okay, so as I say, tonight we're talking about foreign currency exchange, and you can register with David Nixon at Currencies Direct using the links on the description boxes, and we'll be adding extra links as well throughout the program. So make sure you do, because he's going to give you some great advice and save you loads of money. Okay, so let's tell you a little bit what's going off over the next few weeks, and let me just bring my screen up, the timetable up. We've got on the 2nd of February, so next week, we're doing our webinar, Legal Documents and Searches. Basically what we do on that one is we let you know all about the kind of documents that we collect when it comes to actually looking to buy the property, or if you put an offer in for a property. It's all about the kind of documents that we collect, where we can see if there's any problems with the property, any debts on the property, any mortgages, any problems with things like, I don't know, let's say they've had some work done and that kind of thing. So I'm going to go through all the documents that we collect and how safe it is, and how we then get everything ready to go to the notary's office. Then on the 9th of February, these should be coming up on the screen, and for some reason they're not coming up, but there you go. On the 9th of February, we're doing the big, massive Q&A session. Basically, you can come online and you can ask whatever you like. So anything to do with buying, restoring, anything like that, that's going to be on the 9th of February. So you just come on, ask whatever you like on that one. The 16th of February, meet the home buyers. We're actually doing one now with a couple that bought a property over a year ago, and they moved out here over a year ago. So we're doing a meet the home buyers 1 year on. So that should be a great one. And then we've got Tony's putting the 9th of February up now, so hopefully he's moving that around. So meet the home buyers is on the 16th of February. So that's the 1 year on. Then we have on the 23rd of February, my Abruzzo. That's one of my favorite ones. That's where we get to talk about this amazing region where I'm actually based. So that should be a great one. Lots of photographs. I'll give you a few hints and tips about where you should start looking if you are looking in Abruzzo, and some of the property hotspots and that type of thing. So that should be a great one. That's on the 23rd of February. So that's next month's webinars already lined up. I should be doing the usual advertising on Facebook and on YouTube and that kind of thing, and I will be sending emails out as well. So get ready for all of that kind of thing. Okay, so tonight we are talking about how to save money on currency exchange. So this is, as I say, this is going to be a fantastic one tonight. Hopefully there's lots of people in, which is a great start. And let's see what happens from here. Another quick notice that I do want to tell everybody is we've now decided that we're going to do another Home in Italy on the road tour, which we did one last October and turned out to be an absolute roaring success. And it was basically what happens is you come out here and we will show you different areas. We'll show you some of the places in Abruzzo that we think are fantastic. We also see properties on the way around, have meals out together, and you can ask as many questions as you like to me, as usually you do on these sessions. So we're thinking about doing one of these tours. They're usually a 2-day tour. We're going to be staying close to Sulmona, covering the Sulmona area, and possibly around the other side of the mountain as well, the coast side of the mountain. It's all coming together at the moment, but we're thinking about doing this at the very beginning of May, round about the 4th I don't know, the 4th or 5th of May. So that's the kind of dates that we're looking at. So if you are interested in doing that, please email us on info@ahomeinitaly.com and let us know if that's something that you would be interested in. And obviously I will send you information when it comes out, but we're thinking round about the 4th and 5th of May. So yeah, please let me know about that. Now Tony is telling me, or did tell me on a private chat, that my voice is one behind the other, whatever that means. So I don't know if there's any problems with the sound. If anybody is having problems with the sound, then please let us know in the chat, and I will make sure we'll see if we can try and rectify that before we bring David on. So if you can just let me know if anybody is having any problems with the sound, or Tony, if you are still seeing problems with sound, if you can just let me know again on the private chat. I'm hearing it's playing twice with a delay, so that's good to hear me twice. Anybody else, if you can, everybody else is saying no problem here. So Russ is saying no problem here. If anybody is having any problems, it must be Tony's end, either that or he's back on the drink again, one or the other. Probably back on the drink, actually. I did see him with a glass of wine as usual. Anyway, everybody's saying all fine here, so we're just going to go along with that. Okay, so let's get into tonight's subject. As I say, we're talking about currency exchange, so I'm going to bring in our very, very special guest, who's David Nixon out in Florida. So let's just get his camera sorted out and we can start chatting away about this. And do feel free, by the way, to send any questions as we go along. And we will try and answer as many as we can, but obviously we're going to describe everything there is to know about currency exchange and about how it all works. But please do feel free to ask questions as we go along. Okay, so I'm going to bring David in to the streaming, and here he is. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm good, David. How's things with you?
All good, thanks. All very good, apart from a few gremlins, apparently. But I'm presuming you can hear okay.
I can hear you perfectly, thanks.
Excellent stuff, excellent. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is David from Currencies Direct. So we're going to have a bit of a. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit later. I was going to do it earlier, but I'll leave it a little bit later. I know you like that. So let's talk about currency exchange. So this applies. We're talking now. I know you're based in Florida, but you can deal with pretty much any currency, can't you? So it doesn't matter whether somebody's in the UK, whether in the US, Canada, wherever they are. You're the man when it comes to the currency exchange.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the company, and then we'll start on with some of the questions.
Yeah, so I am David Nixon. I am originally from the northeast of England, obviously the best part of England. Newcastle is my home city. Very proud to be there, but very, very ashamed to say the weather is not necessarily the cup of tea that I'm looking for. I left the UK at 21 after finishing university, where I did a law degree. I went to live in Spain for 7 years, and then just through the course of doing business, I ended up in lovely Florida, where I came on a intercompany transfer. Now I'm a 100% American citizen. I have 2 little girls, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I've developed out a very nice niche within the expat community over here in the United States, where I've served on several boards, including the British American Chamber of Commerce. So I'm very, very well versed in international business, and particularly when it comes to obviously foreign currency exchange. Deal with a lot of expats here, transferring money back to Canada, transferring money back over to Europe. And also, I think something I always talk to you about, David, is what we've seen as a trend recently in the United States is the sheer amount of Americans now buying property in Europe, just because obviously very, very good value, people living out their dreams, being able to work remotely. It's been a very, very exciting thing for development from our point of view to see these investors making the big jump to purchase and own property, particularly in Italy with yourself.
Yeah, no, I must admit, it's incredible how many people from the US are coming out at the minute. Obviously, we're directing all of tonight at everybody from around the world. There has just been this huge change. I mean, I know Brexit in the UK, the dreaded B word, brought a lot of problems for people from the UK, because obviously you need visas and everything else now. So I think the market of people to move out here is on pause a little bit. But what seems to have happened, what I found out recently with people that are applying for visas from the US to come here, is they're all getting fast tracked. I've had the last few people that's come out getting visas within a week and 2 weeks, which was never heard of before. We were talking months before. But since this has happened with Brexit, it's almost like, the Italians obviously, or the Italian government must have seen all of a sudden there's a stopping people coming out here, and we need to start getting people in and fast tracking these visas like I've never seen before. I just hope the trend comes back for people in other countries as well. But that's politics. We're not going to go into that. Definitely not. So as far as currency is concerned, I know a lot of people, strangely enough, in the UK, there are, you know better than me, there are millions of foreign currency exchange companies. They're all over the place. And whenever we do exhibitions, there's millions of them. But yet in the US, there doesn't seem to be, or very few people. Why is that?
Really just the sheer expense of it all. In order to come up and set a base up here in the United States, you have to be regulated individually in every single state, exactly the same way that you have to be regulated in a country. With us in the European Union, for example, we have one license in the European Union. It covers all of those different countries and jurisdictions. Obviously, our headquarters is in the UK, so that's not a problem. But everywhere we do business, we have to be licensed correctly as per regulations in those particular areas. The United States is really like doing business with 50 different countries, where obviously a lot of them are a lot more profitable than others. For example, we're going to do a lot more business as a company out of California than we are going to out of like North Dakota, for example. So that's basically when we look at expanding into new geographies. What we're looking for is there a lot of commerce between different countries, whether that's corporate or whether that's individuals moving, immigrating for whatever reasons. So generally speaking, as a rule, because we're a British company, wherever there are Brits, that is typically where Currencies Direct have bases, which is why out of all of the places in the United States, I'm actually in Orlando, Florida, just because there's literally hundreds of thousands of Brits here in Florida, as well as from our company perspective, Canadians, French, German. And because of that, we've become very, very professional and efficient in moving large sums of money around the globe, particularly around the United States, without it, falling into real big pitfalls within that process that we as a company like to guide our clients away from. So it's a lot more than just currency exchange. A big part of what we do is customer service, guiding people away from pitfalls, making sure that they have a plan in order to make the transfer happen. And I think when we talk about what we do as a company, why it works so well in the property niches, we're talking about really large transfers. That's why it's always great for us to deal with these clients on an individual basis. We have all of this online technology, but I think it's important when people are making these kind of transfers and decisions for the first time that they have human beings like myself and like my colleagues to talk to make sure that they are doing things correctly, because obviously this is a large sum of money, a life-changing decision for a lot of the people that are on this video, and we want to make sure that this part of it is done correctly, efficiently, and if we can help save these people money at the same time, then that makes my job particularly very worthwhile.
Superb. So, I mean, obviously you've dealt with a number of our clients over the last year, which has been fantastic. Everybody is, I know we've said we're going to do these things quite regularly now, at least once every 6 weeks, and we're going to bring some people on that have actually used your services. I know for me, I must say that I always say to all my clients that when I know that you've got the funds, then I know that we can relax. When we're at the notary's office and maybe we're doing transfers at the last minute, so many times we've contacted you and said, the contract's good to go, David, can you please release the funds, and everything's done great. So as a system, works absolutely perfect for me. So that's why I also like the thing with you guys. You're based in Florida, but obviously you deal all around the world, and your time zone actually fits perfect also for clients that we have in the UK, because they can speak to you now in the evening, can't they? I mean, I don't know what time it is there now. What time are you? Midday, 1 o'clock?
1:15, and I have the benefit as well of having the 3 and 1 year old, which means my actual hours of operation during the day are generally between 4 a.m. and somewhere around midnight. So generally I don't sleep, so always available.
I have noticed you answering some of my queries at strange hours, and did wonder that. So just to clarify then, when I said, why do you think there's people, less companies in the US doing this? When you say it's down to sort of costs and things like that, we're not obviously talking costs to the end user. We're talking costs for your license as a foreign exchange company.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. So again, we have a lot of people who can make payments into the United States, but literally because of the way these companies in Europe are licensed, they don't have the ability to, do business for US residents, which is obviously something that we've seen a huge niche for, particularly,
Yeah.
obviously in the last, 13, 14 months or so.
Okay. So, I mean, I do want to talk about banks. We're not going to name any names on here or anything like that. We're not going to pull any banks down or anything else. But obviously, I have had a lot of experience with people. Also, the UK is in a similar situation now where it's not as straightforward sending money from one country to another. There seems to be millions of checks. It always comes at that point when you desperately need to get something. You've got a time frame and everything else. But why obviously the first place you would think of is going to your high street bank and saying, okay, I've been banking with you for the last 40, 50 years, however long it is. I'm buying a property in Italy. I want to send and exchange my money from pounds or dollars or whatever it is into euros. Why shouldn't they do that? Why shouldn't they go to the bank? Why are you in business? Sounds horrible to say.
No, absolutely. So you're talking about in the UK, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of different companies that do what we do. Every single one of these companies exists. We as an industry exist because the exchange rates that we offer to our clients are just much better than the exchange rates offered by that particular client's bank. The reason is simple. We're very, very we're very specific in what we do. International currency transfers is all we do. So unlike a bank that obviously has a lot of different products, a lot of different areas of expertise, foreign exchange isn't necessarily one of the things that they concentrate on. And if you think about a high street bank, or where I am in Orlando, I can cross the road and go to a bank over the road. I can guarantee you there's probably been nobody walk into that branch this week to do a foreign international transfer. And for me to set that up in branch would take a couple of hours, maybe a lot of paperwork. And what comes out at the end of it is a very poor exchange rate. And you have no visibility whatsoever, when the funds are in transit. So all of a sudden, if your notaire in Italy says, well, where's my money? It's very difficult for you, as somebody who doesn't know the bank across the road, to get in touch with them. It's very hard for a client to get in touch with a branch over the road. So these kind of delays in the process, which can happen very, very, obviously, when large sums of money are being transferred, banks want to know, what's it going for? Who are you paying? What is the relationship that you have with this client or payee, for example? And these are all of the things that we as a company, we're offering you that sort of synergy as a client between yourself, the end user, the person that we're paying. And all in all, when you look at the price of our transfers, we're going to save you money. When we look at the speed of our transfers, it's going to be quicker. And when we look at the security of funds, ironically, as a company, we have to ensure 100% of the funds whenever they're on account with us, as opposed to a bank that only has to transfer a part of the amount. So, for example, in the UK, that's £85,000. With us, because of what we do and how we're regulated, we have to ensure 100% of the funds that we're holding at any one time. So when it comes to price, speed, and security, that's why people use companies like Currencies Direct. And every single one of them is going to beat your bank when it comes to exchange rates.
And that's the thing, isn't it? You're going to get the best exchange rate, and we're talking, even if it's just 1 point difference on 100k, it's €1,000 at the end of the day, isn't it? So you have to shop around, and it's amazing how many people don't. And I had a client not so long ago that bought a house that was a couple of 100k, never even thought about using a foreign exchange company, even though I'd obviously passed your details on as we do. And he actually worked out he could have saved himself €6,000. And that, I would say, I think he got away lightly, because he could have lost out on much more than that. I think the bank must have given him a reasonable rate, but we're talking thousands, especially as the price. I mean, even on a 50k property, it doesn't matter. It's every bit you can save, even if it's €500 or whatever. It's better spent on your holiday home, I think. So and on top of all of that, I suppose when you go to banks, you don't have experts talking that know purely about foreign exchange. You're not going to speak to somebody over the counter about that, are you? But every person that works in your office, that I'm presuming they're tied to a screen looking at the rates changing every second. I'm presuming that's how it works.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge part of it. People do want reassurance. They want to make informed decisions. We're never going to tell somebody to do something, but we like to give people everything they need so they can make their own decisions when it comes to, their own comfort level or whatever it might be.
Yeah, perfect. So before we go on to, obviously, there's lots of people going to wonder that how does it all work, and we are going to talk about that shortly. And as I said earlier, there is a link to register. It's free to register. We will talk about this shortly, but it is free to register with you guys, just to get people registered, and then they can obviously chat to you and all the rest. But as I say, we'll move on to that shortly. Before we do, let's talk about the other things that are here at the moment. These cards, I'm not going to name names, but there's a couple of these cards that, let's be honest, they give amazing exchange rates. I have two of these cards, and I tend to use them. I don't know if I go on holiday or something like that. Obviously, when you're thinking about sending a lot of money and doing all this on an app, I start to get a bit wary about things like that. I mean, what's your feeling on these cards? Because they are great, aren't they? The exchange rate is superb that you can get on them.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love them. I use them as well, especially if I'm traveling, because we as a company, we're not dealing in travel money per se. We're dealing really about those large ticket items that require, a client requires a little bit of hand holding through, particularly if they're paying third parties and things like that. I do love those cards. I recommend that everybody who travels should definitely have one. Some good businesses that you can mention to people. I like them a lot, like I said. However, again, this is all financial technology. They don't have they have a lot more clients than a company like ours does, and they have a lot more transactions than a company like ours has, and they have a lot less staff to basically service those clients. So if you need to speak to somebody, if you've entered a wrong account number, if your money hasn't arrived at the other end, it's going to be very, very difficult to resolve those questions quickly, because you don't have somebody like me who is basically making sure that the transaction goes smoothly, because I want to protect my relationship with you. I've seen how beneficial it is for you to bring me on these webinars to allow me to help tons of clients. So I want that relationship to continue, because it's beneficial for me, obviously. And so therefore, as a company, we have that vested interest in making your clients happy and making the process for your clients as simple as possible. I would say if you were to look at the big transfers, that's why it's better to use our company for those rather than your travel money, cards, digital bank accounts, things like that. Really good, very, very handy. But large transfers, this is just the benefit of my experience being in the business. And I think if you were to do your own research and due diligence, those would be the outcomes that, a client would come to as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to talk about some of these things a little bit later, but one of the big ones for me, again, I know a chap that's buying recently who said, I'm sorted, all my FX is sorted. He pays to be a gold member or whatever it is of one of these cards again. But what I tried to explain to him is that, yes, if let's say that he rings you now this second and said, okay, David, my card is giving me this. You may turn around and say, okay, no, I can't beat that. So that guy thinks, okay, that's perfect. I'm onto a winner, change all the money, let's get on with this. What he doesn't have from his card, and what he doesn't have unless he works in your business, is he doesn't have the chance to speak to somebody like you that may say, well, hang on a minute, I think that you need to hold off a few days, or I think that this is potentially going to happen, or why not exchange half and maybe the other half a little bit later and spread these things around. Again, I think we all seem to. I was actually having a discussion with my son today, with somebody that came into school talking about modern technology and how we're all fixated on apps. We all become professionals about everything. We watch a couple of YouTube videos, which hopefully everybody watches a few of ours, but we suddenly become professionals about everything. I think it's great to have knowledge, but at the end of the day, if you think, oh no, I'm settled now, I've got the best price, that rate could drastically improve, maybe even through the night, couldn't it? I mean, these things run do they run 24 hours a day?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's always movement in the currency markets. A little bit slower over the weekend when there's no data or news coming out, but as you can see, if you look at any chart, it's up and down, all throughout the day, and it's pretty much moving. Every couple of seconds or so, you'll see a rate move by a difference or so. So very interesting market to work in for sure. But yeah, volatility is certainly something that you should be looking to protect yourself against for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's run through before you start giving different tips that I mean, there's some that you've told me about that I didn't even know existed, where people can fix a rate with you and hardly give you any of the money, which is people are probably going to think, what's that all about? We're going to explain all of that kind of thing soon, how they can really start to work this system well, and it's simple to do. Let's go right back to basics, because there's going to be a lot of people that sort of think, okay, Dave, you've been rattling on now 20 minutes. Tell us how it works. So, basic thing. I ask people to click on our link, which I'm keep putting these things. Now, the reason for it, I'm going to be completely open to everybody. Just like anything else, Currencies Direct have an affiliate system, and we get a percentage from that. I'm not ashamed to say that. It's not that if you clicked on another link, you'd get a better rate. It doesn't work like that, does it? We get a percentage of what you pay us for doing things like this, which is how it should be. But the thing that I like about you coming onto these webinars is that you promise that when people click on these links, they get to speak to you first of all. And can you just explain what happens when people go into this description box and see the link that they've got to click? Explain to people what happens from there. They get directed to your website, and then what?
Yeah, so as soon as you've registered for an account through this link, I will be notified. I typically at that point, I will send you a text message and a email just to say, this is who I am, this is where you can contact me. If you'd like me to talk to you, just let me know a good time to call. I like to make sure that I make myself available when it's a good time for the client to speak. And then basically from there, I will talk to you about, best practices, what people typically do, and the reasons why they do it that way. And then from there, if the client decides that, yeah, David, we're going to move ahead with Currencies Direct, we'll finish your registration off. The registration, to finish it off, typically is the collection of some documents. So for a lot of clients, we'll require a proof of address and a proof of ID for their current residence. That's because when we were talking about earlier, we regulated differently in all different types of places. I saw a client on the call from New Zealand, for example. So if we were to do, that person might require a slightly different proof of ID or a proof of address. But that creates the account. Once the client's got a roadmap of how to move forward, I have a very small network of people within Currencies Direct that I rely upon, that are stuck to the screens at all times. And if I need them to speak to you quickly, or if you want to speak to them, you want to call them up during regular office hours to talk to you about their transfers, then you've got that person who can always help you over the telephone to make transfers, to lock in exchange rates, to talk about your options at any time during business hours. And in addition to that, I'm always in the background to make sure that if somebody's off work, or if you need a quick answer late at night when someone might not be working, that I'm also working for you as well. So like I said, my job is to make sure that clients that are referred by Mr. Benton are as happy as possible. And I think I always mention this when we talk to you, is that you're very, very hands-on with the process and with your clients. And I like that, because a lot of our affiliates aren't necessarily like that. They're kind of like, we're going to let our client, leave them to their own devices, if you like. You're always texting me, asking me for updates, and that keeps that sort of keeps me honest. It keeps that relationship very sticky from my point of view, and it makes sure that our clients are happy, which is obviously the most important thing. So
no, definitely. I think people know from watching the webinars and people that are clients how I hate being passed around to other people. Obviously we can't do everything ourselves. There's only me and my wife run this, as you know. Yeah. And I know when sort of people register with you and they've had the conversation with you, then it will go to, as you say, a dealer and things like that. You're not sort of forgetting about them. You're passing them to the professionals of that time. The important thing for me is that first port of call, that if people still don't fully understand after we've finished today, that they can say, look, okay, David, I watched that the other night, but now tell me how you're going to help me. And that's really important for me. And that's why we get on the way we do. So obviously we're gonna talk about some things where some tips where really people can save, as we say. So once they're on your website, they've done all the. You say that they have to upload documents to proof of. So I'm presuming they can also do this on their telephone and maybe take a photograph of their license or whatever it is that you need. Yeah, and that all gets stored on there. And that is completely free of charge, isn't it? There's no charge. They don't have to sign any contracts. There's nothing. If they never use you again, it doesn't matter, does it?
No, it doesn't. It's just a way that they can get registered. So if they do need to move money, then they have that option to speak to a dealer, book in rates over the line. And if they want access to an online platform where they can book smaller transfers themselves, that's also, something that they'll get at that point of the roadmap.
Perfect. So let's say somebody's even thinking about buying. Maybe they haven't bought a property. There's nothing wrong with them registering now. You're not saying, okay, if you register, you've got to deal with us in 30 days, anything else. So people can just register and then they're ready, and it's just one extra step, one less thing that they have to think about. Okay, right. So we've got to the point now of where somebody's registered, they're ready to go. You reach out to them and say, if you want to have a chat, that's fine. We can have a chat, get people, explain how it works and all the rest of it. So somebody is now at the position where they've been out here, hopefully with me, found a property that they love, put an offer in, and they think, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this in 3 months. Now, obviously, if somebody's got something to do in a week, they're very limited to, usually, I mean, things can change overnight, but usually a normal week, there's not going to be much sort of change, I wouldn't have thought, within Currencies. But let's say somebody's going to buy in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, whatever it is. We're going to go through a few of these things, if you can sort of explain to people what these things are. So the first one is the spot contract. What does that mean? What is that?
So a spot contract is a contract that's booked right then, either on the telephone or on the online platform, based on the actual live rate at that particular moment. So a client doesn't have to necessarily have sent funds to us yet. Let's just say they need to send you 6,000 euros. They can say, well, for 6,000 euros, this is going to cost them X amount of pounds or X amount of dollars or X amount of New Zealand dollars, whatever that might be. And then from there, basically, if they agree to it, click on that rate. We go ahead at that point. We buy the 6,000 euros in advance. Those 6,000 euros are ready, waiting to be sent. And then all we do is we send you the account information of your currency where you'll transfer the money to us. As soon as we've received that money, then the euros become available to send wherever they need to be sent by that particular client. So it's a very, very quick process. Once the rate is locked under that spot contract, it's locked, so you don't have to worry about it from that point going up or down anymore. And then we give you 2 or 3 days to send the funds to us. Typically, if you're in a rush, obviously you can march down to your bank or go online with your online platform at your bank and send it to us right then and there. For a domestic transfer, very, very cheap. In fact, it probably won't cost you any money whatsoever, and very, very quick as well. So lots of these things can be done within 1 working day.
So this is the kind of thing then that, let's say, as you said, okay, somebody's found a house, they want to pay a deposit, they've suddenly watched this video that's been sat around on YouTube for years and they thought, oh, this guy sounds good, so let's ring this company, let's register, I need 30 grand, 40 grand, whatever it is, straight away. They can actually do this on your app as well, can they? Somebody can do 100K on their app.
In certain areas, yeah. In the United States, you can send $150,000 without ever having spoken to anybody. In the UK, only £25,000. So very, very different per jurisdiction again. So,
but they can still let's say then if it is one of our UK clients, but they need 100K, they just then need to contact you rather than doing it on the app. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. That's correct.
Perfect. So they've then said, okay, so they ring you up. We need this money fairly quick. What rate will you give me? You will say X amount, whatever it is on that day. I'm presuming then that is an official contract. That's a binding contract between you and that person, isn't it? It's a legally binding contract. Okay.
When it's booked on the telephone, it's always on a recorded line. We do that, so you're never going to have anybody, misinterpret what what was given. You'll also be emailed a contract right then and then to show you how much currency you bought and how much money you need to send us to fulfill that contract. And yeah, we do give people 2 or 3 days to send us the funds. If, for example, somebody, their car, they're stuck in snow, we'll make exceptions, obviously, to help clients out. We're not going to send the bailiffs around right then and there. We're going to work with our clients to make sure that they're happy and they're able to obviously move forward and transact smoothly moving forward.
And obviously they send you that money in their currency, don't they? So if it's a pound deal, you have a UK pound account. They just send the agreed amount of pounds to that account, so they're not paying any overseas. Obviously, they can't send it overseas because then they'll be transferring themselves, but it's just a pound to pound. So your account's as good as based in the UK as if it was, I don't know, if even in the US you've got a dollar account, in Canada you've got the dollar, they just send it to a local thing. Let's just quickly have a look at this question before we move on to the next one. Can you explain the process of using the exchange in context of buying a house? I'm envisioning funds being held in an escrow account of sorts until purchase. Okay, so let's say this person does need some money quite quick, and they've made a deal that the exchange rate's in their favor. They've rang you up, they've done this spot contract, and then all of a sudden, but they say, okay, but I haven't got a bank account or anything like that. Can you hold it for them? Is it safe?
Yeah, we can hold it indefinitely. I think I touched upon before that 100% of the client's funds are insured while they're on account with Currencies Direct. It works like an escrow account. It's basically a segregated client account. We don't commingle anybody's funds. And they're sat there available for you in euros until you ring us up and say, this is where it needs to get paid to. Send the funds out, please. It's as simple as that in terms of the process. So again, quick, efficient, and obviously with the client's, security in mind for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on. So that's the spot contract. That's the simple one that they know what they want. They ring you up, you give them a deal, and off you go. Let's go to the next one. This is when it starts to get interesting, some of these things now. So a forward contract. What exactly is that?
So that is where somebody who might love today's exchange rate, they might decide that, listen, we can afford the property, that we're looking at. We're not going to buy it for another 6 months. They don't want to worry about.
Sorry, David. I just want to say, please continue it talking because my computer saying my battery is running out for some strange reason, and I am plugged in. So please continue talking. If I do disappear, then I will come back on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll move on. So basically, for a 10% deposit, we can lock in today's exchange rate for up to 2 years. So let's just say, I think the last time that I came on as this, we were actually, for American buyers, we were at, $1 at that point, was buying €1. We actually had a few of your clients that were thinking, brilliant, this is great. It's going to get a lot better. And then we had another set of clients that were like, I can afford the budget that I'm looking at right now. I'm not ready to buy until next year. We're going to lock in $100,000 at today's exchange rate. That's going to buy 100,000 euros. They had to send us $10,000. And whenever they're ready to fulfill that contract, which is open for as long as obviously they require it to be open, 10% deposit covers it. When it comes to fulfilling that contract, brilliant, we're closing in 2 weeks' time. They send us the balance and we send the money out. The real benefit of that is that you're really protecting yourself against negative moves in the market. If we look at where the exchange rates are now compared to the exchange rates then, absolutely huge volatility, huge change. So again, if you're comfortable with your particular budget, this is something really to consider because you're taking all of the foreign exchange risk out of that future purchase. And obviously, as you can see, lots and lots of volatility all the time.
I think that's a fantastic. Because I don't want to question you about that, because let's just answer Lisa's question. She put, how long does it take to pay? So Lisa, I'm presuming you mean how long it takes to get from Currencies Direct to wherever it's going. I will say, David will give you the official one. I would say whenever I've had clients that have sent me money through David and certainly notaries, it's literally a day, 2 days usually. I mean, what's the sort of official line on that?
Yeah, 24 to 48 hours is the official line. Typically, we pay the next working day. That typically happens by the time, obviously, the transfer processes. If it's early enough in the day, then it will be sent the same day. But there's obviously banking cut-off points for when they can A, send money, and when B, they can receive money. So that's just something. But can I answer that one there? Well, I saw that just popped in there. That's a good question. Yeah. What happens if exchange rate falls? So this is again in reference, I'm assuming, to the forward contract. Then obviously that's the downside of that product. Absolutely, the product is really for those people that are budgeting. So businesses do this. Large businesses, when they come to budgeting for the year in a foreign currency, they will lock in these forward contracts. And if it's a good idea for business, then it's generally a good idea for private clients to do the same to mitigate their risk. If the exchange rate falls, then your contract is locked, It's just one of those things that happened. It's only there to protect against negative, market risk, if you like. So just one of those things.
But in the same breath, I mean, it could just as easy go the other way, couldn't it? So,
yeah.
Tony, if you could just clear the question off for me, I just want to just go back to this again about this forward contract, because I think this is something that I didn't really get the hang of before. So a few other people may be thinking the same. So let's say I'm definitely buying a property in Italy. Okay, somebody sat there wherever they are in the world, definitely buying the property. Let's look at what's just happened with the dollar, because it was amazing not so long. I mean, it's still good now, let's be honest, but it was incredible a couple of months ago. So, again, I know we're talking about US dollars, but this could happen anywhere. It wasn't that long ago when the pound was sort of over 120, and now it's down at 112, 113. So, and anyway, let's look. We say today the rate is amazing. And this person thinks, okay, but I'm not going to Italy for another 6 months or another 8 months, but I'm definitely going to buy something. So you're saying that I can ring you up, or let's say I haven't got the money yet. I'm waiting for the sale of a house. I'm waiting for my pension to come through in October. I wish I had the money now because this is an amazing rate. So you're telling me if I need 100K, 200K, 300, whatever it is, the exchange rate's brilliant today, that I can call you up and say, can you lock me that rate in? And I only have to send you 10%, and you will hold that rate for 2 years. Did you say up to 2 years?
Up to 2 years, yeah. So, exactly. You've got that perfectly. I couldn't have described it better myself.
So it is an excellent thing, as you said. Yes, exchange rate can fluctuate, and I know when we, coming from Yorkshire, as you'll know, we like to look after our pennies. So I always remember when we exchanged to buy this house, I made the fatal mistake of I was looking at the foreign exchange rate every day of my life leading up to the exchange, and then once I'd exchanged the money, I carried on looking at the exchange rate, just thinking, oh my God, if I would have waited, I could have got another 200, or it went up and down and all this sort of. But you're basically saying that, for people that just think this is a great rate, I'm happy with that, I don't care what happens, let's lock that in, and it's for that kind of person then just to sort of forget about it. Then they know they've got it at that price.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And even people, I'm presuming as well, I know I do have some clients that will say, okay, after speaking to you and you think it's quite good at the minute, it could get a little bit better, but then again, it could go the other way. Even lock it in half or something like that is usually a good thing to do as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That would be like a natural hedge where, someone books in today, they like that exchange rate, and you're taking 50% of your, currency exchange risk in half if that's something that you decide to do.
Right. Okay. So, sorry, Tony, the question went off. Then somebody put a question in there. So, Joe, do you accept multiple contracts if unsure what direction the rates are headed? Not quite sure.
No. So I kind of understand. Yeah. So again, looking to sort of hedge like the markets, if you like. So when we book a contract or a transfer in for any client, there needs to be a reason behind the transfer. We don't basically allow clients to speculate on market rates, if you like. That's not what our product is designed to do. It's an international payments company that has this huge foreign exchange element, attached to it, if you like. So we need a valid reason for the transfer. Now, that's not to say that we've had clients before that have booked in a forward contract. They've told us it's for a property purchase, in 6 months' time, and then that property purchase, hasn't panned out the way that they want it, and perhaps they don't want the contract anymore. Well, if the rate has moved, against them, if you like, if they no longer require the money, then they can still fulfill that contract, and then at that point transfer the money back. That's absolutely fine. So in that aspect, a client is quite protected. If the rate moves against them, they don't have to necessarily fulfill that particular contract, because technically now they own euros, they just haven't paid for them yet. They can always sell those euros back, because that does happen quite often, where people will use a forward contract because this is their dream. And in 6 months' time, lots of things can happen. Life tends to happen, right? And then obviously as a company, we understand that. So at that point, we'll help the client to exchange the funds and move them back to, the US dollar.
Okay. Rox Ribs saying, can you lock in for 100K, but only use 50?
Yeah, so this would be like drawing down. Yeah, so again, we would draw down. So if all of a sudden you want 50, then your deposit for the other, 50 would be, would be reduced to 5,000 in this case, for example. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. We can let people draw down from their exchange rates for sure for their forward contracts that are already in place.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I suppose if you're using a forward contract, you don't. I mean, you're asking for 10%, aren't you? So if I've got 100k and I'm blocking it at that rate, I only have to send you 10 now. Then if I want to do, I don't know, if I need to shift another 30 and send you 30, can you do it in more than can you do it in 2 or 3 stages?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So another service that we offer, absolutely, that sort of thing happens all of the time where, again, when it comes to deposits and stuff like that, you might just need 20,000 of that sent for the deposit. So again, absolutely, you can do that. And we call that a drawdown from the forward contract.
Okay. I suppose even people that are doing sort of restorations and that kind of thing, they're in for X amount, so they're doing restorations to the house. The exchange rate is brilliant now, but the restorations, I don't know, maybe go on for 6 months, and every month they want to send so much to the builder, or every 2 months or whatever. You could lock that great rate in now, give the 10%, and then as you're going along, send the money over, which it is a fantastic system. There was a question before this one, Tony, going back to the one from Mexico. I think they were asked if they could can I use the Currency app in New Mexico, USA?
So no, for that particular state in the USA, I think I sent you, we basically work with 85% of the US population. There are 15% that, we haven't got licenses in their state. New Mexico is one of those places. However, Lisa, if you wanted to get in touch with me, I would be more than happy to give you the benefit of my information and advice. Again, as a client of David, potentially, we want to be able to help you out. So if there is any way that I can assist you or put you in some good hands, then absolutely, I'll be more than happy to do that. For anybody, my goal here is to help David's client. My business will take care of itself on the back end of that assistance, I think.
Brilliant. So yeah, if you do want to get in touch, then at least if you email me at info@homeinitaly.com, then obviously we'll pass that on to David. But hopefully, as you say, the vast majority of states you do cover, but there's just a few that you don't. Okay, we've got another question before we go on to talking about limit orders. So are funds held via your company during any waiting or contract period times insured or protected, such as FDIC in the USA?
Yeah, absolutely. FDIC is who covers us in the USA. In the UK, we're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority as well. Here also in the United States by the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It's a scary sounding organization. But again, what we do is obviously very, very fragile. We transfer large sums of money for private clients to buy property in all different parts of the world. So as you can imagine, from a compliance point of view, from a regulation point of view, we have to do things correctly as a company, because the fines for money laundering, things like that, are absolutely huge. So part of my responsibility to teach you to transfer money correctly is also protecting the company and making sure that everything is done correctly. And when it comes to our business compliance, it's absolutely the number one thing that not only protects you, but also, protects our business as well.
Okay, that's superb. Right, so moving on to the last one now, which is limit order. What's that one all about?
So a limit order, let's just say you want to have your funds in position, roughly what your budget is in dollars. You can, if you like, you can send us dollars. And then basically, if somebody, is going on a cruise or on a vacation, or doesn't want to drive themselves crazy watching the exchange rates move up and down all of the time, and they can say to us, for example, David, today, the US dollar is at like 0.92. If it gets to 0.94, will you go ahead and exchange that $100,000 for me that I have on account? That is what we would call a limit order. And basically, as soon as the market level, whatever happens during the day or night, perhaps that might change, then that'll go ahead and automatically purchase that currency for you. So most people, when they've got a large amount to move, they're constantly looking at the exchange rates. You can imagine how maddening it could be. And, this is a product that's really going to help you. If you've got some time to perhaps capture a better rate, that might be achievable because of lots of different news that might be coming around, out on a weekly basis, for example, interest rate rises or something like that. Always good to have these limit orders in place, because you might be able to, grab yourself a much better rate than you had when you originally sent the funds to us.
So in a situation like that, then as you say, if you don't want to drive yourself insane, look, let's say you've got a bit of time, you're not in a rush to do this, and you think if the exchange rate just gets to that, I'll be happy with that. They contact you, they set up this. Do they have to send you the money first, or can it?
No, not at all. Not at all. They don't have to send us the money first.
So if I'm waiting, if I'm in the UK and I think this year the pound's going to get back to the good old days of 140 odd, which is not. But let's pretend for a minute. Let's pretend it is. And I say to you, I tell you what, David, if the pound goes to 140, even if it is something ridiculous like that, but let's say I decide tomorrow, David, I tell you what, if the pound gets to 140, will you buy me 100k's worth? Can that be done? Can that be a contract?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got it. Yeah, I'm turning you into an expert. You're going to be able to do this on your own in 6 weeks' time.
Yeah. I'm going to send you an email tomorrow for that 140, not 145. Can't believe when we bought our property, it was 140 something,
Wow.
nearly 150. Those days are, well, not getting into the B word again. Anyway, so so that is a great one for people, so they can just say to you, okay, so I want to, when it gets to that, I'm happy to buy that, and you will take that order with or without the money. Okay, so Lisa is saying we're not going to sort of discuss other people's companies. So I use Wisecard. Can I send the funds to you that way? So obviously it's I don't know if Lisa's thinking that she maybe needs to change the funds to get. Obviously you send it in your currency, don't you? So if she's got a Wisecard, let's say she's from the US, she's got a Wisecard, she just sends US dollars to your US dollars to your account, your US dollar account, doesn't she, at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we can get money from companies that are like ours. They can send us money directly. And the negative about that is typically when we receive money from other brokers, it will come in from that other broker. So there tends to be some enhanced due diligence in terms of finding out what the source of those funds are. So not recommended, but yeah, again, it has happened. So, more than happy to, again, work with clients that have got funds in particular places if necessary.
Great. I do like it when things are live, when people suddenly walk into offices. I'm just waiting for somebody to walk behind you and start doing something in the glass behind you. Anyway, Joe is saying, Joe is saying if you usually my son works out in the next room. He has a gym thing, and you suddenly hear banging and music, things like that. Anyway, Joe is saying if you currently hold euros in another account, can they be transferred to you to consolidate funds?
Yeah, we can. I mean, there's no business sense for us to do that. But if that helps you out, we want to help you out. So absolutely, we can do that. Obviously, we make our money when we are exchanging currency. We don't make our money for doing any of the other services that we do. Those are really just solutions for clients to help them out because, we understand the market very well. But yeah, if a client wanted to do that, absolutely, we would do that for them if it made sense. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay. So I've got another question coming through now. We'll do this as the last one. Christopher saying, what is the average cost savings in US dollars when utilizing your service versus a competitor when exchanging, say, 130K? Tough one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, again, competitors' ranges do vary. And typically we know all of our competitors, rates there or thereabouts. But again, as a traditional broker, what we like to do is, we're able to, work with us, use some discretion. So again, if, for example, you were to say, my competitors, this is the exchange rate, it's a very simple question. It's either, listen, we can do a lot better than that, or listen, that's a great rate you're getting. If you're comfortable working with them, absolutely. But most often, in my experience, the rates that we would offer would be much better than competitors. And that, again, is basically down to the relationship we have at David. We don't want to be coming on webinars like this and talking about great exchange rates only to find out that there's another group out there that are doing exchange rates much better than ours. That wouldn't be good business sense from my point of view. So I want to help you out as much as possible. I can give you a sort of like a US bank versus a foreign exchange rate company comparison, if you like.
Let's do that. Just to give Christopher, let's say a traditional bank. Obviously, we're not going to name names, but on average, let's say 100K because it's easier to work out.
Well, I already did this before we came on air. I have it written down from a conversation I had with my bank about half an hour ago. But basically, $100,000 US an hour ago would get a client 91,640 or so euros. With a bank, with my bank, it would get 88,890. So in that, for 100,000, you're looking at a saving of $1,300 or so, which is quite considerable, I think, over the course of a typical transfer.
Definitely. So that's good to know. Okay, superb. So let's just Tony's still piling the questions through, so we'll have this one as a last one. So Eric is saying, so apparently you're not registered in West Virginia.
Yeah, in Virginia, absolutely, but not in West Virginia. One of the most beautiful states to drive through in the whole of the United States. There possibly are workarounds. Like, I would have to speak to you in person to see, what the exact situation is. And again, if I can help you, I will certainly do my best to do that. But yeah, for actual residents of West Virginia, that's a no-no. Again, it's just not a state that has a lot of foreign immigration from countries that we work with anyway, and it isn't a place that generates a typical amount of foreign exchange in comparativeness to, for example, Virginia, which is obviously your neighbor.
Okay, so out of that 15% you don't deal with, we just happen to have got all of those people from those 15% on tonight's webinar. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, I think the key thing to start around this up is to speak to somebody like you is what it's all about. I mean, you come on here, thanking you so much for doing that. You're available to speak to clients whenever. People need to register. Basically, and then they can start finding out how all this works properly and start saving some money. And that's the key thing to deal. I always say, find the professional people, find the ones that you're comfortable dealing with, and then you're starting to get everything in order and getting everything ready. So putting you on the spot just once. I know you hate this. We've got 3 minutes. I've even got background music on. Can you hear that? That means it's coming to an end. So I'm going to say dollar to euro. What's going to happen? What's your hit? What do you think?
Check. Oh no, it's not okay. All right. So basically, I think if you look at what's happened, is you've seen like this retracement between the low and the high of the year, if you like, and we're sitting right there in the middle of it. If you look at a trend, the US dollar is still 4% better than it was this time last year. I would say, going to head, I would say there's probably the euro's going to strengthen a little bit, but not by much. There you go.
Okay. Pound to euro?
That's an even tougher one. Again, a very, very huge political instability in the UK right now. I would suggest on that one a bit of a holding pattern, but with perhaps some more pound weakness due to just some political instability there. But listen, my crystal ball is broken officially. If you'd have asked me the day before Brexit what would have happened, I would have got that wrong. If you'd have told me what would have happened to the American real estate economy when COVID first came down, I got that one completely wrong. So I tend to get egg on my face. What I can do is I can help you save money, versus the bank, absolutely, and help you guide you the best way to do your transfers. That's about as much as I'm willing to offer.
Very nicely got out of. And on that note, we're going to say bye to everybody. David, thank you so much. You're going to start doing some YouTube videos with me as well, so people need to look out for that. And you're going to do more of these sessions. We've said about every 6 weeks. So absolutely fantastic speaking to you again. Hopefully everybody's going to join as well next Thursday when we talk about legal documents and all that kind of thing. I will be in touch, and this session will be left on YouTube and Facebook. So please, if you just joined us, you want to watch the beginning, it's going to be left on there anyway. Okay, so thank you so much, David. Great to see you again, and thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you really soon.